Several years ago, I received an email from a young woman that really shook me. She wrote, "I am 28 years old and I've spent most of my adult life unemployed, like a lot of other people in this area. I live in an apartment block in Hillbrow, Johannesburg. My own flat is on the 24th floor, right over one of the noisiest sections, which can have its moments, especially at night. The elevator hardly ever works. People do their best, but the place is still full of graffiti, litter, dog shit. Not much to look at unless you like a lot of bare concrete. I can't pretend to be entirely happy in a place like this. There's a lot of noise, a lot of violence. The lift stinks of urine when it works, and nobody seems to have any hope anymore. Unemployment in these flats ranges between 60 and 75%. Anyway, one day, while dumping my garbage, I turned around and heard a little cry. There, wrapped in a blanket, inside a dustbin, I found a newborn baby. Well, I could hardly just leave him there, so I took him home. At first I called him Ponty, but I hate my building so much that I changed it to Pick It Up, or Picky for short. We've been together now for nearly 2 years, and we're scraping by somehow. I just can't find a job, so to keep food on the table and pay the rent, I have to hustle, and sometimes do things that I am really ashamed of. I just can't see the hand of God in all of this. I hope that He won't judge me too harshly. Well, my friends, how will we be judged? According to what criteria will we be judged? It's not primarily a matter of right belief. We will not be judged according to our intellectual convictions. We will not be judged according to our political allegiance. We will not be judged according to our artistic ability. We will not be judged according to our social status. Now, all of those things are fine and good. They're worth pursuing. Nothing wrong with them in themselves. But the Lord tells us that we won't be judged by those things. How often, by the way, the world judges us by these qualities. The world will applaud us if we have a high social status. The world will reward us if we have great intellectual achievements. The world will say, "Hooray for you," if you have the right political allegiance. But how will God judge us? How will Christ judge? It's a matter of love, concretely expressed. Let me say that again, because it's of critical importance here. We will be judged on our love, concretely expressed. Listen to Jesus. "For I was hungry, and you gave me food. For I was thirsty, and you gave me drink. I was a stranger, and you welcomed me. I was naked, and you clothed me. I was ill, and you cared for me. I was in prison, and you visited me." And of course, we know the famous connection Jesus makes when the disciples say, "Lord, when were you hungry and thirsty? When were you ill and naked? When did we care for you?" And He says, "Whenever you did it for one of the least of my brothers and sisters, you did it for me." Well, there's something awful, I think, in those demands. What the Lord is saying here is it is not love in the abstract that matters. It's not a general feeling of being well disposed to others, having affection for humanity in the abstract. No, that is not how we will be judged. Rather, caring for that person, I mean the one that you can see, the one that you are concretely in touch with, that person who doesn't have adequate food and drink. Doing something with everything in your power. I mean with your own hands, your own life, but also using whatever political, social influence that you can muster to help that person. That person who is homeless, who's lonely, abandoned, that person right now walking around in rags without sufficient clothing. And where are these people? Well, no matter where you are, they are not within kilometers, but they're within hundreds of meters of you. On the highway, they're within minutes of you. Jesus is saying it is in terms of your concrete care of such people that you will be judged. You know, I can dismiss others when I think of them abstractly. But when the face of someone in need confronts me, it appeals, it calls, it summonses, it accuses. Isn't that good? It accuses me. It says, yes, now, you. I am making a demand on you to help me. And this, I think, is what Jesus is talking about when he says, I was ill and you cared for me. Are there people around you, right down the road from you, people who are homebound, people who maybe are anxious or depressed, unable, unwilling to leave their homes? Care for them. Yes, now, you. I was in prison and you visited me. Christians, can I encourage you to do something? Whenever you are faced with a moral dilemma, when you have someone approach you for help, especially as you close your eyes at night, thinking back over the events of the day, may I suggest that you just lift your right hand, look at your fingers, and then repeat these 5 words, one for each finger. You did it to me. Put your hand under your pillow. It's called the 5-finger prayer. Use it to examine your conscience as you reflect on your day. For Jesus, to give something to a poor person is to give something to God. To neglect a poor person is to neglect God. Let's take another little boy. Although he wasn't found in a dustbin, when he was conceived, his mother was advised to abort him. His dad was away in the army and she had 2 other children that she could hardly care for. But she, however, understood that the only thing more vulnerable than a newborn baby is an unborn baby. So she decided to have this one. But she died when he was very young, and he was brought up by his brother, who also died when he was only 12 years old. And he was taken in by the church into an orphanage, and he later joined the seminary and he became a priest. His name was Karol Wojtyła. John Paul II is now widely known as Saint John Paul the Great since his canonization in April 2014. We can easily forget what powerful forces he unleashed. When John Paul first came to Poland at the height of the communist regime, the Pope was opposed by all kinds of forces. And when he appeared in Poland, they tried in numerous ways to block people's access to him. They threatened not to televise him, not to broadcast him on the radio. They set up literal roadblocks so that people couldn't get to visit him. But they came out by the millions and the millions to hear him. And the Pope spoke the truth about God, about society, about the human being.
Niech wstąpi duch Twój. Niech wstąpi duch Twój i odnowi oblicze ziemi tej ziemi.
There was no way that you could contest Soviet power by force. It had to be contested by spiritual power, and he did it.
What John Paul II inspired was the conviction, I'm not going to live that way anymore. And out of that transformative revolution of conscience came the Solidarity movement.
John Paul II understood that men and women live and die for great ideas, and therefore he was essential to this dramatic new birth of freedom,
which led eventually to the toppling of other Eastern European regimes. And finally, it led to the overthrow of the Soviet Union itself. The Pope, John Paul II, in 1980-1981, faced down one of the great superpowers of the world. With a little help, who knows what little Pick It Up may achieve. Whatever you do to the least of my brothers and sisters, you do it to me. And God bless you.